Hey folks, this is Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast. I just want to remind you about our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. We have a Facebook page. We would appreciate it if you like and follow. Also, join our discussion group on Facebook called After the Shadows. We have a Twitter feed. Please follow us on Twitter. It can be found with @podcast_from. Follow us on Instagram at From the Shadows Podcast. We have a YouTube channel. Go to the search bar at YouTube and put From the Shadows Podcast, and please subscribe to that channel. We are also on the Odyssey Radio Network, and we can be found there at odyssey1.com. We're still on the traditional podcatchers that everybody loves to listen to us on. We get a lot of feedback, so please rate the podcast and communicate with whether you're on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Google Podcasts. We're there, and we appreciate it when you leave comments for us. Well, that's all I have for you right now, folks, and thanks for being a part of the From the Shadows podcast family. So with that being said, let's get this episode started. Now I'm going to turn you over to your host, Shanegrove.
Hey everyone, Shanegrove here, and I want to let you guys know that my book series, From the Shadows, is available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle. There are 3 different books available. There's Volume 1 and Volume 2, Return of the Lizard Man, and then there's a special screenplay edition which includes both Volume 1 and Volume 2 in screenplay format. So if you're a big fan of Bigfoot, lizard men, conspiracy theories, the X-Files, and mysterious men in black, I urge you to go and check out these books. And if you like them, you know what? Please leave me a great review. And if you don't like them, I apologize. So anyway, check them out. And if you really want a autographed copy, message me through From the Shadows Podcast, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks. Enjoy the episode.
I got this buddy of mine who's a car salesman. He still is. I talked to him the other day. He's actually selling ATVs now. And we were just going through, we were going through old home week, telling old stories and stuff. And he said, man, you remember, and he's about 10, 12 years older than me. But, a motorcycle, aficionado, I can't pronounce that word, but just a dude that's been a thrill seeker his whole life, And I'm talking back in the 80s. He's about, like I said, 12 years older than me. So in the late 80s, early 90s, when I'm 21, 22, he's in his mid-30s, made a lot of money. Some of it went up his nose. He hot-rodded cars and motorcycles. I mean, has just you would think would be scared of nothing, right?
Sounds like it.
Same deal. Hey, man, same deal. Hey, dude, why don't you take me with you one day? And I said, what? And he goes, take me one of them repo deals. And I said, nothing ever happens. He goes, no, I saw that movie. Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez had a movie called something. I don't remember. You know what I mean?
Repo.
They were in like
Repo
L.A.
Man
Repo Man. Yes, something like that. Yeah.
Are you talking
about? No, I seen that
about
movie, and I'm like,
Men at Work, where they were the garbage men? Or are you talking about?
No, I thought they had didn't they have a Repo Man? Weren't they in
I don't know.
Repo Man?
It
doesn't matter.
How many times
there
did
was
you
a
watch
movie about
Charlie
some
Sheen
Repo
and
Man.
Emilio Estevez?
But I tried to explain to him a movie made in L.A. to depict a fictional characters is different than being a Repo Man in the Ozarks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the Midwest, where one of two things happen: the good Christian folks are finding hard times, and they just give you it and say sorry, or they go dump it in the clay pit, and you never see it again. They say screw you. One of the two, but you don't have a whole lot in between. So, bank guy calls and says, hey, can you go down and get this bass boat? This dude's he's 65, 70 years old. I don't remember how old he was at the time. He was old. He's suffering from cancer. La da da. He told us just to come and get it. Well, the problem, it was way down south Missouri, south central Missouri, down by past Alley Springs, just almost Arkansas, just middle of 40 miles past nowhere. And So my buddy says, hey, I'm off, my car dealer buddy. He says, like most car guys, they got to work on Saturdays, so they get like a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday off. So he says, I'm off Wednesday. Take me with you. And I said, I ain't going. I'm going down to almost Arkansas to get this bass boat. And he said, well, take me with you. And I said, dude, there's nothing going to happen. You're just going to drive. Well, take me with you. I don't get to do anything. I said, okay, I'll take you with you. And we made this little nice leisurely trip. And there's an old ferry at that time called Acres Ferry. It still might be going on. And I told him, I said, hey, you don't mind if I take the long way to get down here? Because when I was a little kid, we would come down and go canoeing, and it was a big deal to put your car on a real ferry. You know what I mean? So we put my truck on the ferry. We took it across this river and made our way down to this little bitty old wood cutting lead mine in town that had fallen on hard times. And we drive to the address, and this is back when there were very few of those little aluminum awnings. You know how people now, every trailer down here's got an aluminum awning to park.
It sounds like
it. You know what I'm talking about?
You haven't told a story yet. That didn't have
you haven't been down
have
here.
An aluminum
trailer or aluminum awning.
Have an aluminum awning on it.
Yeah. So really a prerequisite. If you live in a trailer down here, you got to have three things really. You've got to have a satellite dish. You've got to have an aluminum awning to park your stuff in, and you've got to have a $60,000 or $70,000 diesel crew cab pickup. Those are the real things. Because I used to not be able to figure it out, and then I realized the reason why they buy such expensive trucks, that way if they need to move that trailer, they can. Because you have to have a robust truck to move your trailer, and that's probably why they have them. But anyway, this old boy wasn't in a trailer. He was an old decrepit 2-story house like the Adams family in town, and he had this awning out there, and underneath it was this bass boat. So I wheeled up there and I started backing up that bass boat, and I threw it in park. And my buddy says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to go up and knock on the door and just be nice and tell the old gentleman that we're here from the bank and we're going to take the boat." Because what happens is that a lot of times if you go up and knock on the door and tell them, they go, "Okay, yeah, we understand." Or, I mean, this guy said, "Come and get it," right?
Yeah,
that's
what
he said.
But if they catch you in the act of stealing it, well, then they're offended. The neighbors see it, something happens, and then they get mad, right? So my buddy's standing out behind the truck, kind of looking at the ball, see how you hook up your boat. Are you close enough? Whatever. I knock on the door. This guy comes, oxygen tank. I don't think he said, he might have been Korean veteran, but some kind of disabled veteran hat on, and a wife beater T-shirt, and he just had an air about him. Now, you guys have been around some, I don't want to use the term badass, but you guys have been around some badasses.
Yeah.
So you recognize one when you're around one, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Well, some of your viewers might not, but an old boy, oxygen tank and all, he's been around. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's been around. And he said, "Can I help you? Or what do you want?" Or something gruffly. And I said, "Hey, I'm so-and-so from the bank sent me down here to pick up that boat." And hold on. He goes, "Hold on right there. I've changed my effing mind. That's the only thing I got left. And you tell those," I can't say it on Family Show, "but they can have it back when I'm dead." And I said, "Okay, well, that's not." And he said, "I'm getting my shotgun. And I'm going to kill you MFers if you don't get the F out of here."
Okay.
And I believed him. That's the difference. When I was a cop, I had all kinds of people threaten me. And you're like, "Yeah, you take your best shot, Jack." This old boy, I mean, it looked like, if you've seen the movie, Clint Eastwood movie,
Yeah.
not El Camino. What's it? Not El Gran Torino.
Yeah, Gran Torino.
Yeah, and maybe because that Clint Eastwood's character, Gran Torino, that was my grandpa. That was my dad's dad. 101st Airborne guy, had been to Germany, had been to Korea, had been in a bottle for 25 years, and was mad at something. And that's probably what when that guy told me, I said, "Okay," and I walked off them steps and I crossed that yard. My buddy's out there jacking around, with his polished hands and his feathered back hair, because he's a car salesman, right? And he said, what'd he say? And I said, he's getting a shotgun. He's going to kill us. My buddy said, no, seriously, what'd he say? And I said, yeah, he's getting a shotgun. He's going to kill us. About that time, he was on the porch with his old pump shotgun. You know, you can hear that pump, and that's what they teach in law enforcement. And I was already getting in the truck, and my buddy's like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Look at him." And because you know what I mean? It's every man for himself. Now we're getting in the truck, Jack. So I jumped in the truck. My buddy jumped in the truck, and we peel off. And the old man never did get off the porch, right? He just watched us. And we ran around the block and couldn't see him. And my buddy's going, "You gonna call the cops on him? You gonna do this?" And I said, "Man, call the cops. What happens when you call the cops?" The repo rules in Missouri at the time, it probably still are. You can do whatever you needed to, as long as you couldn't go in locked buildings or anything. You couldn't breach the peace. So if they raised enough hell that the cops got called, they always just told you to leave, right? Because you're the one that's causing the commotion, the repo man.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Dude, I can't believe, man, I saw my life flash before my eyes. I can't believe it." And I said, "Yeah, I told you, dude. You know, this is." He said, "You told me nothing was going to happen." I said, "Well, it normally don't." And he's like, "What are you going to?" He's like, "Dude, you know, I don't." He said something, and we're sitting in this little podunk town, and I pull in this gas station. I walk in, I bought a soda, and I come back, and my buddy is still just rambling on 90 miles a minute about it. Couldn't believe it. Couldn't wait to get back to the dealership, tell these guys. And I said, "We're going to go back and get that boat." And he goes, "Are you serious?" And I said, Screw that old man. I said, "You know, I drove down 4.5 hours down here, and now I went from being scared to being mad." I said, "This is what we're going to do. I'm going to wheel up there, and I'm going to back up to it." And I said, "When I put this thing in park and get out, you slide over here. I'm going to hook it up the best I can, and we're going to take off." And he's like, "You're serious?" And I said, "You watch me, Jack." I said, "If you think I drove all the way down here to get run off by an old man with an oxygen tank, think again." You know? So just like that, I come down the street the other way, that way, because the first way, the way I backed into it, when I pulled out, I was going to have to drive by his house. I came the opposite way, so when we pulled away, we would be away from his house, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I backed into that. I backed up to that thing till I heard it hit my license plate. You know, when you're backing up and you get all the way to the tongue, bang. So I jump out and he slides over, and I'm jacking around trying, and it's a fiberglass bass boat, so it's fairly heavy. And I'm trying to do my best to getting that thing hooked up on the ball, and it's because I was just going to grab it and carry it over to the ball. You know how you do,
Oh, yeah.
but it was too heavy, so I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there cranking it because I got at that time. Well, it was a 1-ton Chevrolet single rear wheel, you know, K3500 you'd call them back then. So it's set up. So I'm sitting there cranking that ball or cranking that handle for all it's worth. Now remember, we done backed into it, bang. Now I'm down there cranking it, and I hooked the safety chains up, and as I'm cranking it, he came out.
Did he have the shotgun?
And with the shotgun. He came out with the shotgun. So, and I still not hooked up. That's when I hit the safety chain. I jumped in and told my buddy, I said, "Go." And he goes, "You hook up to it?" And I said, "I'm hooked up to it." And I had the safety chains, but the jack was down with the little wheel. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we go taking that thing. We go ripping out of this guy's driveway. My buddy's scared, right? But I mean, he's a biker. He's a bad, you know, he's a tough guy. So when he gets on it, and we're spinning gravel till we get to the street. And about every time what happens, that chain would get tight, and we'd jerk that boat and jerk it right into my back bumper. Boom! Bang! And then I don't know if he thought somebody was shooting at us or what, but every time that tongue would hit that license plate, he'd give it some more gas. And we tore off down the street about 1.5 blocks, made the corner. And I said, "Okay, stop. We can hook up." And my buddy's just like, "Dude, I can't even believe that. You know what I'm going to tell everybody?" And so we get this bass boat hooked up correctly. My license plate's all bent up. And we take off down the road, and my buddies keep saying, I can't wait to get back home and tell everybody. And I said, screw the, of course, I'm pumping my right hand saying, screw that old man. We showed him. Hell yeah, we showed him. And we're on this 2-lane road. And I mean, it's 2-lane blacktop. Even on the state highway, you get down in the Ozark, these roads are, 8-9 feet wide on each lane and no shoulder, grass, and something felt weird about it. I remember telling him, I said, I ain't for sure we ain't got a flat tire. And as soon as I looked in my mirror, the left boat trailer tire come off and passed us right down the double. And it was down on the axle. It was down on the axle with the sparks flying. So I got to pull off with two wheels on the ditch, and I get out, and we ain't got no jack. The old man had, I guess, the week before when he told the bank to come get it, he had done that. The right side was loose, and the left side lost. Yeah, he loosened all the lug nuts in case we wasn't, in case he wasn't around, or in case, you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a jack, so I got to get this truck jack out from, I think it was underneath the hood in those trucks. It was either underneath the hood or underneath the seat, and try to jack it up and tighten the right side up. I walk, a quarter mile down the road to pick up this tire because it's spinning 50, 60 mile an hour, and you lose it, it jumps off. You know what I mean? We ain't got no spare. The holes are wallered out instead of being circles. They look like bananas, and they ain't got no lug nuts. It's only got 4 or 5 of them to begin with. Part of them broke off, and I'm out here on this 2-lane road trying to find a couple of lug nuts. I ended up finding one, but the threads are all jacked up on it. I had to take the other one off the other good side and put 2 lug nuts on it. So I went from pumping my fist saying, screw that old bastard.
He got you.
To being in the ditch with this whole mess. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was 20 plus years ago, 25. I don't even know how many years ago. And my buddy talked about it. He's a store manager at a Yamaha ATV store, and I was talking, and I'm telling you, he comes out of his office when he sees me, and he'll sit there with me all day, and that story always comes up. He never, just like my buddy from high school, they never went on a second time. They never went the second time.
Well, the second time would be just nothing but a disappointment after those first times.
Nothing might happen. Hey, I had one time, and I did. This is a short story because I know we got things to do. But my boss called me and said, "Hey, we need to go up. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. This guy is like a 5-time 5th-degree black belt or kung fu, karate, weightlifter. He's threatened the people at the bank. He's done all this stuff. He's the cops all know who he's sheriff. He lives out in the country on a dead-end road, and he's told him he's going to kill anybody that comes down there. He's going to beat him up. He's been to prison for assault. He's done all this stuff. So if you don't want to mess with it, you don't have to." And I said, "Well, $50 is still $50." I said, "Well, I'll go take a look at it." And he goes, "Well, if the guy comes out, I want you to leave. I don't want you to get in any kind of confrontation with him because this is a 30-some-year-old convict." And that was back before they let convicts work everywhere. Now that everybody's a convict, but whatever. Back in them days, it was something special to be all tattooed, weightlifting convict.
Yeah, those guys are a dime a dozen now.
Now, I mean, shoots are everywhere, but back in them days, they weren't. It was a novelty. So I go down and off in this 2-lane gravel road, and here's this idiot. It was a jacked up Toyota truck. One of them, back in the late 80s, SR5 Toyota extended cab, 4-wheel drive with big fat tires, you know what I mean? And I didn't even back around and try to steal it. I got out and I walked up. He's got a couple pit bulls chained up with like log chains. And I walk up on the door, and as I'm walking up the door, he has got music blaring as loud as you could blare. I knock on the door and nobody answers. I knock on the door, nobody answers. And I'm looking around, and the dogs are looking at me, and I'm looking at them. I'm looking at the truck. I'm looking at the tow truck I got, and I'm going, maybe I should just try to take this thing. No, I can't. My subconscious, don't. You got to find him. He'll come out and if I mid hook up or something, you know. So I walk around the edge of the porch and the side of the house to the back porch, and he's got this big old. You guys remember the old? Look like you remember the Techniques catalog that had all the stereo stuff in it, you know. He had a giant stereo about 4 foot with them speakers, you know, that looked like I can't even describe them nowadays. You know what I mean? It looked like a half of a chest of drawers cut in half with sound emitting from them, you know. And he's got this sensei mat rolled out, and he's facing the other way, and he's doing this. You remember the old movie with Patrick Swayze, Roadhouse? Remember how he's doing like yoga type stuff? You know what I mean? Like some kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's in there doing this yoga crap on the back porch of this house with, I don't remember. I mean, back in the days, it was I don't even remember who the heavy metal. It was worse than Quite Right. It was like Black Sabbath or somebody. You know what I mean? Or Ozzy Crazy Train.
Yeah.
And I remember turning around. I'm outside. I remember turning around, tiptoeing. I'm out in the yard, tiptoeing around them pit bulls, getting in that tow truck, turning around, and grabbing that truck and taking off. And I got back to town, and I called my boss, and I said, "Hey, I got this truck." And they go, "My God, did he fight you?" And I said, "No." "Oh, what happened?" And I tell my boss, the old copy, I said, "You know, I tell him just like I told you guys, he was on the back doing some kind of yoga stuff with the stereo player." So I just took it. I tried to knock on it. Well, then the bank guy called and said, "Oh my God, he's threatening to come down the bank and kill us." And that's back before that was even popular. You know, back in the old days, you'd say that and they thought you were joking. Nowadays, I mean, you can't even say that.
I don't know. This guy sounds like he's way ahead of his time.
Yeah, I defeated. No, because he didn't show up. But I defeated this badass without even firing a shot. I just snuck in there, and he had threatened so many people that they didn't even want to do it.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.